we have an NPV10 of about $200 million. And then we also have an oil field that we produce, make 155 barrels of oil per day. That gives us almost $3 million a year. To buy this asset, I would suspect you're looking at, $100 million.
This is the Financial Survival Network. Now more than ever. The Financial Survival Network.
And welcome. You are listening to and watching the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. When it comes to resource stocks, really well invested and really believe that we're going to have a commodity super cycle. There's no question in my mind, whether it's money printing, geopolitical issues, whatever it might be. And a company I've been investing in recently is Trillion Energy. And you find them at trillionenergy.com. Make sure you go sign up for notifications. After you hear the company's story, you're definitely going to want to. Ticker symbols on the CSE, it's TCF. On the OTC, it's TCFF. And on the FSX, the Frankfurt Exchange, it's 3P2N. That's 3P2N. And right now I've got the CEO on with me, Dr. Arthur Halloran. Arthur, you are a petroleum geologist and CEO, director of Trillion. And one of the reasons what attracted me to your company, Art, is the undervaluation. I'm going to briefly summarize that Trillion is a successor to several companies before it, but basically there are assets that are not on the books that are worth potentially a fortune. Trillion is in the energy business. They're developing shallow natural gas wells in the Black Sea, in Turkey, and they are pretty much have gotten a major discovery. And when you combine that with the undervalued assets, I think you're really onto something here as an investment. That's why I'm here. So, Art, with that, tell us basically, Trillion, you're dealing with Turkey. That is going to be a red flag to every investor. It was to me initially, as red as the shirt that I'm wearing now. But when I looked at the history of the company, the economics, and the need that Turkey has for Trillion, that really assuaged my concerns. Just tell us, dealing with Turkey, you've been doing it for over a decade. What is that like?
Well, dealing in Turkey, there's really no issue or no problem. We have only about 12.5% royalty. We've never had an issue with the change of the royalty. Our partner is TPAO, which is the Turkish government petroleum company, and with that size scale, we get a lot of benefits. And we never had an issue being paid or anything. So it's a really good country to be doing business in.
A number of things that I really like about the company. Art, tell us about the SASB field, the discovery there, what we're looking at.
Okay, so Trillion Energy, we have, like you mentioned, $600 million worth of assets, which include 4 platforms, the gathering system, subsea pipes, onshore pipeline, processing plant. And we are a 49% owner of that. We have 4 gas fields that have been produced since about 2007. They're at the end of their life. And when you asked about why the assets are not on the books, it's because we got audit advice and also advice towards security that because when we purchased the field, there was really no assignable gas reserves. So we wrote off the asset, right? So we have those 4 gas fields that have produced. We know them very well. They produce $350 million worth of gas. And we are now, in the future, what we're doing right now is going to drill 4 discovered non-produced, they haven't been produced gas fields that are identical to the 4 that we've already produced. Those 4 have been drilled, tested, mapped, and we're going to actually drill them from the existing 4 platforms. And that way we will have no more subsea pipeline or anything to put in. We drill, we complete, we produce onto the platforms, into our gathering system. So it's a matter of months to get cash, first revenue from each well. So that's fairly quick, right? And besides those 4 discovered pools that are not developed, we have another 6 development pools, which are mainly faulted limbs or something off existing pools. Add those 2 together with the 2P of the proven reserves, it's about 74 million US, NPV 10, and the risked of the development wells, that's another 80, 83. That gives us, 157 million US worth of gas assets at NPV 10. Plus, we have other prospects. So we have upwards of $200 million worth of gas sitting there, and we have the infrastructure. And our shares right now are, I think they're like 10 cents, 11 cents US, right? So we're severely undervalued. We should be at $1.25.
Oh, easily. And look, let's say it's probably a little bit under the threshold that a major global oil company would be interested in, but certainly a medium-sized, small, medium-sized petroleum, natural gas company would be interested. What would they pay for these assets, assuming there was no trillion? If they're just looking to buy these assets, they'd be paying way more multiples than what the company's stock is worth now, is it?
Yeah, that's correct. I mean, when we have an NPV 10 of about $200 million, and then we also have an oil field that we produce, make 155 barrels of oil per day, that gives us almost $2 million, $3 million a year. To buy this asset, I would suspect you're looking at, $100 million.
Yeah, and you're trading for effectively less than 10% of that.
That's correct. Our cap is 10 million.
Right. Yeah. So that's what really intrigued me. I go back to Benjamin Graham. I'm maybe a little old-fashioned securities analysis, but anytime I can buy $10 worth of assets for less than $1, I'm interested, unless those assets are in a place that they can never be utilized and that they're effectively valueless. But if those assets have a value, me as an opportunistic investor, I'm interested. So the story obviously isn't out there. The value, I mean, you said to me, Art, that the scrap metal of your platforms out there, your rigs, is worth more or as much as the company's current market value.
That's correct. And I focus on the gas field. But again, like with our oil field, the oil field alone is worth $4 million, right? And when we look at comparables, you have so with our 2P and our prospect development wells, we have a value, say $157 million NPV 10, and our share are at 13 cents, 10 cents. Our market cap is 10 million. And NG Energy from Colombia, their gas is worth 67 million. Their market cap is 125 million US. Their shares are 92 cents. Another comparable is Touchstone. They have more gas. They have about $390 million worth of gas, but their market cap is almost $500 million, and their shares are about 2.25. And that their growth is just over a year. And if you look at ours has stayed the same. So we're severely undervalued when we look at our comparables.
And Art, this is not your first rodeo here. You've built these companies. This has been your career for decades now. You've built a number of companies basically from the ground up. So this one, I know there's specific challenges to each project that you undertake. I mean, that's just the way life is. But in terms of what you've done before and what you're doing now, this isn't that big a stretch, is it?
No, it isn't. And like you mentioned, I was one of the founders of Chemical Energy in Colombia. It was myself and four other Colombians. We formed that company. We acquired the first asset, and now it's worth $500 million. I was also one of the founders of Raleigh Energy and Scimitar in Egypt, which sold for $600 million. And this project, the one thing that they all have in similar, like they're similar to, is the asset. So when I look at an asset, that's the thing that really has to stand out. So Colombia, when we looked at that asset, it was called Rancho Hermoso. Egypt, it was Scimitar. And for Trillion Energy, it is SASB. So for SASB, you have a huge asset and reserve that, because of paper, like written down, and there was no reserve engineering report, it had a zero value attached to it, whereas we know it's worth, hundreds of millions.
Yeah, it's just remarkable. And we should say, if this was a North American nat gas project, it wouldn't even be worth looking at, because the average price of nat gas in the U.S. has been under $3 per million BTUs. But in this part of the world, the price is much higher than that, isn't it?
Yes. So we get $6 to $7 US an MCF, and our buyer is a very large industrial user of the gas. They buy our gas and our partner, the government's gas. And Turkey imports about 99% of their gas from Russia and other areas, but mainly Russia, and it has a high price ticket to it.
Something you might not be aware of out there, but outside of North and South America, it's much higher, between $6 and $8 per million BTU. So you can actually make money here. Unless you have wet gas, it's really difficult to earn a return on your nat gas well, which is why tens of thousands of them are basically shut in production, just waiting for the price of nat gas to get over $3, which is why in the US, when you see it get that high, all of a sudden there's a flood of gas, and then it goes back down, and it's kind of like excess stock overhanging a company. You just see that it's not going to get realized for quite some time. Well, I digress, Art, but you've got plans here. You've got financing pretty much in place. You're just waiting for the right moment, more or less, to pull the trigger, right?
Yeah, that's right. And when we talk about the gas project and the gas price, the fact that when we bought the subco, all that investment was already there and it's sitting there, so we can now capitalize on that by, like, nobody can compete with us in this area for the gas, because all those costs are already sunk, right? And so right now, we need about $20 million to realize the $200 million value for the gas. And that's our percentage, 49, and then TPO has 51%. And so we have a number of streams that we're looking at. One is we're looking at an equity finance. We have $10 million interest. Like, there's a group that wants to put $10 million as an equity financing. Our issue is, as you mentioned, our share value is too low. And so we're now in a process of getting our message out to try to raise that value. That $10 million is sitting there. At the same time, because we have those 4 fields that are proven 100%, and we also have the other development locations, we were able to go to 2 major drilling rig service companies, and we've approached them, and so they will do the work, and then we'll have a payment plan that we can pay out of our revenues in the future from our gas, because we come on stream within about, like I said, 2 months, 60 days. And they feel very comfortable because they know that the gases are 100%. And so that's kind of like a pseudo debt. So we might not get the full cost of the drilling and so on, but say we get another 5 or 6 million delay payment. And we're also right now looking at a royalty debt component, because the idea is to try to get the royalty debt component, get the service rig component, the drilling rig component, so that we can then reduce the amount of equity money we need to cause less dilution of the shares.
Which, as a shareholder myself, that's what I want to hear. The D word is dreaded. Should be a 4-letter word, but in any event, we always look for managements that are looking to minimize dilution, and that requires a balancing of financing options, which you have vendor financing in place and some debt and some equity, and then you can keep it to a minimum. And with a predictable cash flow like a producing oil or gas well, not that hard to accomplish. So interesting things ahead. Again, go over to trillionenergy.com and fill out the form so you get the latest notifications, what's going on. I have a feeling, Art, things are really going to be moving quickly. And what you need to do is just keep an eye on it. The ticker symbols, again, on the CSE, TCF, on the OTC, TCFF, on the Frankfurt, it's 3P2N. And Art, really exciting times. When we talk to you next time, we'll talk about the team behind you, because you have a team. Nobody can do all this on their own. And the interesting challenges. Hopefully, at that point, the financing will be in place and we'll be off to the races.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much for the conversation.
My pleasure. Hey, if there's any questions for Art out there, just send me an email or post it on the YouTube. It's kl@kerrylutz.com. Art, we'll talk to you again real soon.
Okay, thanks a lot. Bye.
The Financial Survival Network.